Cowboys and Eagles at 7-1, and the Packers at 8-1. And great responses. Thanks to everybody responding on X. And we did have a lot of write-in votes in this poll as well, because you also said, hey, if you don't like one of these options, go ahead and write in your choice. We're seeing some love for the Rams, the Buccaneers, and maybe this one surprises me the most, the Vikings. And I kind of wanted to start there with the Vikings because it's Sam Darnold. And, I mean, Sam's getting another opportunity. It didn't work out in Carolina after he left to the Jets. And then maybe did he resurrect the career with Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco in limited playing time, obviously out there last year. And it looks like he's going to be the starter over J.J. McCarthy. We'll find out if that's the way Kevin O'Connell goes. Do you like the Vikings 52, even if you have question marks about the biggest one?
Well, I think the Vikings are a team that has been, we saw them in year one with Kirk Cousins win a lot of close games. And then last year we saw them lose a lot of close games. So it's kind of gone back and forth. And I think what you're betting on, if you're taking the Kevin O'Connell money, is you're betting on them being good offensively with O'Connell. The addition of Aaron Jones is something you like to go along with Jefferson and Addison. They have really good skill players. Their offensive line is good. I don't think they're going to ask Sam Darnold to win the game. I think they're going to ask Sam Darnold to participate in the game. And then defensively, I think they made great strides last year, Dave, in terms of where they are with their depth chart this offseason. When you look at them, they add Greenard from Houston. They swap out Danielle Hunter for Greenard. That trade worked out. They get Van Ginkel to come in. They take Dallas Turner in the first round, right, to go along with that. Now, they're still really not great at corner. I think that's the concern. If you're Brian Flores and you're on vacation, you're saying, am I good enough at corner? But his blitzing approach and his defensive scheme last year created a lot of problems for people. And I could see this. I mean, I know it's hard to say you can win 10 games without a great quarterback. But, look, Darnold is going to have to come in and manage the game, hand the ball off. They've got two good running backs, and they've got a lot of good skill. So I could see it, especially if this defense turns the corner and plays really well in terms of rushing the passer and creating turnovers with their pressure package.
You make me feel better because I played an adjusted win total of plus $1.55 at 7.5 over. Because I don't know that I want to lay that juice at 6.5, but I do think this is potentially, to your point, an 8-9 win football team. I don't know if that's good enough to get you home for the division, but 10, if you get into that double digits, then you start talking about seeding in the NFL postseason here, and maybe that's why you're seeing some of the respect in your poll question to maybe be an outside shot to challenge the Niners. What about the Rams?
Well, let me ask you this question. Why are the Bears? I know the Bears fans love to bet their team, and nobody's more loyal with their money in terms of betting than Bear fans are. Whenever you can bet Mitchell Trubisky to be the MVP after watching him play, you're betting the uniform, you're not betting the player. But the reality here is like Minnesota's a good team. Everybody loves the Bears defensively at the end of the year, but Minnesota is a good team. I understand that there's some hesitation about Sam Darnold, and he turns the ball over way too much. I agree with that, right? But they're playing an easier schedule. They've got a really good defense. And let's not forget, this is a hard place to go in there and play and win effectively, right? It's not an easy place to go up there and win with the crowd noise and all that. So I don't know why there's so much love for the Bears and hate for the Vikings. I think kind of if you looked at roster and said who has the better roster, I'm going Minnesota here.
That's why it stuns me when you look at the North. And we get it why the Lions, and again, they're right now getting the most votes to push the Niners. They're plus $1.50 to win and repeat as champions. The Bears are plus 265 just off the heels of the Packers at plus 210. And then the Vikings are 10-1. Like, that number just seems way out of whack for me.
Way out of whack.
Yeah, I think it should be much closer
but
there.
But that's Bears fans. Bear fans love to bet their team. I mean, you got to take your hat off to them. They
loyal.
Put their money where their mouth is. There's no reason to bet the Bears there. It should be closer, right?
Yes.
And here's what we do know. We do know that one of these I'll be honest to you. I don't think Detroit can beat Minnesota twice. I really don't. Minnesota's going to win one of those games. That doesn't make Detroit a lesser team, but I think it makes Minnesota a team that's capable. And I think you have to add coaching into it. Brian Flores will do a really good job of coaching the defense, and Kevin O'Connell will do a really good job of coaching the offense. So look, I'm not trying to sit here and say Sam Darnold's going to be the MVP, but they won a lot of games last year without a quarterback. I mean, he gets Joshua Dobbs off the street.
Yeah.
He's playing Nick Mullins in a game. I mean, look, when you go back through it, they lost 4 straight after they beat the Raiders 3-0. They lose the overtime game to Cincinnati. They lose a close game to Detroit. They got blown out by Green Bay, and then of course the last game of the year, Detroit beats them again. So, they lose. They were in position going into Week 11 of the season. They were in position with a bad roster. They're 6-4, and they end up 7-10.
I'm with you. I see a lot of upside potentially for the Vikings with a lot of those close losses from a year ago. Maybe, I don't know if Sam Darnold can be this year's Baker Mayfield, but we did see Baker resurrect his career, got a new contract down there in Tampa. I think a lot of people didn't see that coming for them to be not only a division winner, but win a playoff game last year and then push Detroit in the game that they ultimately lost in the second round. So we've got some love for the Bucs in the responses as well. Could this be something? Is it foundational? Can they build off Baker from what they did a year ago?
I think, to me, let's put it in perspective. Baker, they managed Baker. They've got really good skill in Mike Evans and Godwin, and they were able to make plays. But Baker wasn't exactly light. Let's not go too far. They signed Baker to a very reasonable contract. Yep. Because I think it was aware. Baker didn't get $50 million. Baker's the guy you got to have to manage. And here's what they've done, and this is such tribute to Todd Bowles and his coaching staff. They have not been able to run the football at all down there, at all. The last 2 years, including with Tom Brady, they couldn't run the ball to save their life. They've been 32nd in rushing in all this time, and it's put a lot of pressure on their quarterback. If they could improve this offensive line and run the football, it'll take some heat off. Last year, they're 32nd in yards per attempt. They were 32nd in yards gained, and they still were able to find a way to win. Now, if they could change that and flip it and take some of the pressure off of Baker, but Baker turns the ball over, 4 turnovers against the Saints, 2 turnovers against the Lions, which cost them the game. That's why they lose. When he was able to protect the football. Remember, football's a game not about how do we win. It's about how do we avoid losing. And Baker was able to do that. So I don't give Baker all this, oh, my God, he's a starter. Baker, they managed. It's the same thing that Sam Darnold can do in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. This is the same conversation. If he just doesn't turn the ball over, they've got a chance. And the offense is going to allow them to do it. But I think where the key to Tampa Bay is their defense. Their defense down the stretch is really what makes the difference for their team. And Todd Bowles has been able to do that because they won games without creating turnovers. Think about that. They won games without being at the last time they had a turnover, they got 4 turnovers against Jacksonville in Week 15.
The Rams, the last one for some write-in votes there. Can they really push the Niners in their own division this year? Stafford coming back, no Aaron Donald. He's retired. The offense looked like with Puka Nacua and with Kyron at running back, they really kind of turned a corner last year. What do you make of this Rams team? Look at that win total at 8.5 as well.
Well, I think the Rams they're going to be good early in the year because they're going to be healthy. I think, Stafford's got to get a new contract. I think that's the dilemma that's dealing with right now. What are they going to do with Stafford's contract? Because he wants the new deal. And they guaranteed $90 million last year. They were hesitant about doing that. Do they want to do that again? I think that's certainly a concern. But, with McVay coaching, the offense is very good. They've improved their offensive line. They've changed who they are. They're more of an inside zone team than they were an outside zone. They had Blake Corum to come in there, and he runs the runs effectively that Mitchell runs as well. So that's a good combination. But to me, if you're betting the Rams, you're saying the Rams are going to stay healthy. Because I like the Rams team if Stafford's healthy. That's the key. But if he doesn't stay healthy, Garoppolo or Stetson Bennett aren't going to be the answer here. So that's going to be the issue. Defensively, they're going to have to overcome not having Aaron Donald. Where do they get that pressure? They got the 2 young kids last year in the draft, a defensive tackle that played well. But, Donald's in there, and he takes all the protection away. And it let those guys on an island. That's not going to be the case this year. But they will be a threat. They will be if they're healthy. That's always the thing with the Rams. Because of their cap, they've got to be able to stay healthy.
Totally agree with that. So, again, we'll give the results of this poll question at the very end of the show right now. But I do believe the Lions right now are in the lead at plus 550. Again, Cowboys and Eagles at 7-1 to be the biggest challengers to win the NFC, and then the Packers at 8-1. Very quickly with the Packers, is it just like Jordan Love? He's arrived. We saw it. It looked great. I mean, it looked great down the stretch. Do we have any question marks that maybe, like, is he now a made man, if you will?
I got a lot of them.
Oh, yeah?
Well, no, you still have a question marks about. I mean, look, let's face it. Jordan Love went back to Meadowlands and turned the ball over late in the season, and then the fourth quarter against the 49er game didn't play well. I mean, he's a young player who's going to have still ups and downs. I don't think we want to anoint him yet. I think it's still going to take some time. But this is a good young Packer team. I think the bigger issue for Green Bay is what difference does Jeff Hafley make to the team? How does he contribute where they change from what they were doing last year to this year in terms defensively? I think that's going to be the key. If they improve that defense, we're from Joe Barry to where they are with Jeff Hafley, that's going to be critical.
All right, coming up later on at the bottom half of this hour, we're going to have JVT join us to talk NBA free agency. And next segment, let's come back, talk about the AFC and where the people are putting their money to win those divisions. That's next here on the Lombardi Line.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi. Now here is your host, Femi Abebefe, on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
With our all-new NFL betting guide out now, there's never been a better time to become a VSiN Pro subscriber. Our all-new NFL betting guide is your secret weapon for the upcoming season. Going to have in-depth profiles of every team, advanced stats, proven betting systems, betting trends. You're going to have all the tools you need to bet this season smarter. Plus, our experts are going to share their top bets on season win totals, futures, props, giving you the insights you need to get ahead and stay ahead of the action. So to get the guide, you've got to become a VSiN Pro subscriber for a limited time. Get an annual subscription to VSiN Pro at an unbeatable price, normally $240 a year. You can now subscribe for just $199 with the promo code Lombardi. Plus, we're going to throw in an extra month for free. That's 13 months of VSiN Pro access to everything we do, including our daily best bets, 24/7 video, premium analysis, exclusive betting splits data, and our special edition betting guides to keep you betting smarter all year long. Don't miss out on our all-new NFL betting guide and this incredible offer. Visit VSiN.com/subscribe right now. Use the promo code Lombardi to get 13 months of VSiN Pro for just $199 and get instant access to our all-new NFL betting guide. That's VSIN.com/subscribe. Back alongside the aforementioned Michael Lombardi, I am Dave Ross as we continue looking at the AFC now, Michael, and everybody on the betting guide, our experts out there, looking at the AFC West first and foremost. 20 of the 21 picked the Chiefs to repeat as AFC West champions. It's almost a 96% clip. Okay, now we get it. As long as Andy Reid's been the head coach and Patrick Mahomes has been the starting quarterback, they've won the division every single year. But there is a new sheriff in town in L.A., and his name is Jim Harbaugh. Could they be in for a tussle? Because I don't think the Raiders or the Broncos or anybody, at least in our VSiN Pro guide, the NFL guide, none of our experts are taking those two teams seriously.
Well, I mean, I think you have to take Sean Payton seriously as a head coach, and he knows how to coach this quarterback, and I think they've improved themselves defensively. But is it good enough to beat the Kansas City Chiefs? They did last year. They were able to beat them last year in a game, and they played them really tough in the game in Kansas City with Russell Wilson at quarterback. Look, I know not everyone's in love with Bo Nix in terms of what he did in college, but I think there's a factor that is going to play into where Sean Payton's going to coach him. He's going to be fully vested into him, and he's going to manage the game. And I think the same thing with the Chargers. I think, when you have three coaches who have been to Super Bowls, two of them have won. One of the coaches has a 70% winning percentage in Jim Harbaugh. It's going to be a lot tougher than you think it is. I mean, we're just looking at paper. We're not really looking at the reality. I don't think the Raiders with Gardner Minshew, who they signed, and he can't beat out Aiden O'Connell from what I'm told. So that tells you where they are. And Aiden O'Connell didn't complete a pass after the first quarter against the Kansas City Chiefs, and they still won a game. So I think this is going to be a harder year for the Chiefs than ever before. And not because the Chiefs are not a good team. They are. But it's to overcome two in a row, the back-to-back, the volume. And have they really improved? I mean, are they the better team? I'm not sure they have improved. I mean, there's still issues at wide receiver. There's still issues at left tackle, significant issues. There's still issue at right tackle with Jawan Taylor as long as he lines up at the backfield. And then Travis Kelce's another year older. So I would say to you, look, I think things are going to take some time to sort through. Nothing would surprise me at all. But I think the Chargers are going to give them a better game, and I think Denver's going to give them a game. And I think the Raiders' defensive front will always give them a tough game.
That's going to be interesting because, again, you got to lay 230 for the Chiefs to repeat as division champions there. The one that really kind of caught my eye is the money's coming in from the public, certainly on the Texans to win the South and repeat as champions. They're plus $1.05, 77% of the handle, and 81% of the bets coming in on Houston. But our experts in the guide, only 9 of 21 picked them to win the AFC South. Does that mean that we're looking at maybe the Colts and the Jaguars? I don't know that many people are looking at the Titans to compete in that division this year. Could that really be a 3-horse race in the South this year?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think everybody's going to target the Texans as their offseason project, right? I think we as fans don't understand how much time is spent on studying the competition in the NFL. And the Texans are going to be one of those teams that went from being the unknown to the known. And they're going to have to make adjustments. It's going to be a really hard thing. It's the same whenever you win a Super Bowl or you go to the Super Bowl, teams spend a lot of time preparing for you. And we know that the Colts had every opportunity to beat the Texans. As good as a year as they had. You know, they just couldn't complete that fourth down pass over in the right flat by the defense. So I think it's a close race, and I think there's a lot of pressure, a ton of pressure on the Jacksonville Jaguars. You know, with Trevor Lawrence getting his new contract, they've made a lot of moves this offseason. Are they going to be good enough defensively? I think Ryan Nielsen will come in and really coach well defensively, give them a little bit more of a balanced defense, a more aligned defense, and a more fundamentally sound defense. But they still going to have to not turn the ball over, which is what Trevor Lawrence has done. And can he stay healthy? I mean, Lawrence, coming out of Clemson, was a runner. He could run the football, and he created plays with his feet. And now as he gets in the NFL, those plays with his feet are causing him to miss games. Mm-hmm. So that's still a concern. And then, look, we didn't even touch on the Colts getting Anthony Richardson back, right? That's a huge get if they get him back. So, and he's healthy. I think this, to me, the two Souths, the AFC South and the NFC South, are dartboard divisions for me. You could convince me, with the exception of Tennessee, I'm not buying Will Levis. You haven't gotten me there. He may prove me wrong, but I can't go there yet. You know, that I'm there, and you can't convince me the Bears are going to win the South. That the NFC South,
right,
Atlanta's going to win it. So you can't convince me of that. So I think both of them are dartboards. I think you could make a case for any of these teams.
I think in the AFC East, and if you look at it by percentage here, the handle, we got 55% of the bets coming in on the Jets at plus $1.90 to win this division, but only 33% of the bets coming in on the Jets. Our experts, we've got 9 of the 21, that's almost 43%, are actually picking the Fighting Fish down in Miami to win this division. I feel like the Bills are being forgotten. I know that Stephon Diggs is down in Houston now, and a lot of changes to the defensive backfield, certainly at their safety position for Sean McDermott and company. How do you evaluate the East? Is it going to be, all due respect to New England, it does feel like it's just the Bills, Jets, and Dolphins in this conversation?
Well, I mean, look, I think to me, the Jets have to stay healthy, right? So we don't know where that, if they're healthy with that defense the way they are, they can beat anybody, assuming they're front. Now, they got to handle the Hassan Riddick element. That's going to be an issue for them. Mm-hmm. What are they going to do there? Are they going to get him in camp? Are they going to be able to get him? Because trading Bryce Huff for Hassan Riddick favors the Eagles tremendously. That was a huge get for Philly to do that, and the Jets just gave him away, let him slip out the building. Miami's 4-10 over the second half of the season with Mike McDaniel. 4-10. The last 7 games, 2 years in a row, they've won 4, they've lost 10. Can they do that? They end the season in Cleveland and New York, 2 cold weather games. I'm not sure that's going to be worthwhile. And then, when you look at Buffalo, there's a lot of concerns about their defensive front. But they have Josh Allen. So to me, that tilts it. Miami, they're dealing with Tua's contract. They also have to deal with Tyreek Hill's contract. We're going to know something about Tyreek Hill within the next 10 days, I would think. They've got to do something with him. So for me, there's so many question marks here, but I lean towards Buffalo simply because of the quarterback.
Plus $1.70, it's the best number you're getting on Buffalo in quite some time, with everybody looking at the Bills and, looking at the Jets and Dolphins as potential suitors there in the AFC East. It does feel like when you look at the North and the AFC, it's just dog eat dog, right? And so our experts out of the 21, 10 of the 21 experts picked each of the Bengals and the Ravens kind of split to win this thing. Could the Browns with Deshaun Watson, I don't know what he is anymore, and we'll find out what Russell Wilson is in Pittsburgh. How many horses are in this race at the end of the year?
Well, I think this is the hardest one. I think all four are in it, don't you? I mean, I can't predict one here either. I think Pittsburgh, everybody's talking about their schedule, but look, every schedule's hard. And when the schedule at the end of the year is hard, you don't know if those teams are going to have their starting quarterback. So I think the North could easily put 3 teams in the playoffs. I think Cincinnati is my favorite just because they get Joe Burrow back. Baltimore, I have huge concerns about their offensive line. Are they going to be better? And can they overcome losing Mike McDonald? I mean, Zach Orr has only coached 3 years in the National Football League, and he's going to be the coordinator. So that's a worrisome there. The Steelers are much improved. The Steelers have improved probably more than anybody because of just getting Arthur Smith to run their offense is going to be a huge improvement. So, and then the Browns. I mean, are we going to see the real Deshaun Watson or not? I mean, that's the question. I mean, what Watson are we going to get out of Cleveland? I have no idea. And if he doesn't throw the ball better with more accuracy and down the field like he did in Houston when he was averaging over 8 yards per attempt, he hasn't come close to that, Dave. He's been 7.9 yards per attempt, and that's not going to get it done. That's the problem with when you're dealing with Trevor Lawrence. He doesn't throw the ball down the field to make plays.
Totally agree, and I love the Patrick Queen signing, kind of making Baltimore a little bit weaker and fortifying your linebacker position there in Pittsburgh. I'm with you. I think that defense could keep Pittsburgh in every game this year. I look at it as a 4-horse race as well. So good luck if you want to play the shortest number on the board, which is the Ravens at plus $1.30. But Joey B and the Bengals there right nipping at their heels at plus $1.45. All right, Michael, when we come back, JVT is going to join the program to talk all things NBA. That's next here on the Lombardi Line.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi. Now here is your host, Femi Abebefe, on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Before you make those wagers the day, be sure to check out VSiN.com to get your best bets, betting splits, exclusive articles, odds by state. They do vary. Betting tools, betting guides, they are there for you each and every day to start your day at VSiN.com. Back alongside Michael Lombardi, Dave Ross here as we continue this Sunday morning edition. A pleasure to welcome back to the program Jonathan Von Tobel joins us now on the Progressive Guest Line. Of course, you can check out JVT nightly here on VSiN Primetime during the week here on the network, talking all things NBA. Good morning, Jonathan. We spoke last night, and that was the big news there was DeMar DeRozan was the trade last night. It had been rumored. It got finalized. He goes to Sacramento from Chicago. Harrison Barnes going back the other way. What do you make of that move, and how much do you believe, if at all, it increases Sacramento's chances in the West?
I mean, it increases it, I guess, like a little bit. I just don't really understand. Like, look, the way that the Western Conference is constructed, when you look at teams like Oklahoma City, who got markedly better with the additions of Alex Caruso and, of course, Isaiah Hartenstein, right? Like, that is a team that is going to compete for a championship. You're not better than that team. Even with the Denver Nuggets losing Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, a vital piece, and their bench being questionable, you're not better than the Denver Nuggets. You're not better than the Minnesota Timberwolves. We can go down the list. So I guess I could give a team credit for wanting to go for it, Dave, to go at a star, to not just sit there on your hands and just run it back and try to do something. But you're making a move for a move's sake, and I just don't think that you have become better than the 4 or 5 teams ahead of you right now by perception. And I just don't know what your ceiling realistically is going to be outside of 5 seed, 4 seed if there's some injuries and you can take advantage and have a healthy season.
Well, all right, let's talk about a team that's unrealistic. Let's talk about the Los Angeles Lakers. LeBron took that $2.7 million discount, which is thankful he did. I mean, saved him a ton of cap room. And we've got Bronny averaging 4 points in Summer League. I can't wait for your scouting report on him. JVT. I can't wait. And his contributions to the Lakers team. But, like, what are the Lakers doing? Like, where do you have them in your power rankings in the West? Like, seriously, what are they? What is the plan? I love the fact that J.J. Redick said that Bronny earned his way here. He averaged 4 points at USC. How did that earn his way there?
No, I agree. And so with Bronny, Michael, I'd say this, and I made this point to Dave and them last night, and to give the Lakers some credit, they do have a very strong track record of drafting and developing players. So whether or not the reason he got there, I think Bronny did land with a good team because they do have a very strong scouting department. They have a strong development track record. And so maybe he does eventually become something, because we can go down the list. I just mentioned Alex Caruso, a former Laker guy. They developed Austin Reeves. The guys that they drafted and developed that went out in the Anthony Davis trade have all been very good role players in their respective spots. So, like, they have a good track record, right? So that's a positive, I think, for Bronny. But for the big picture, what you're talking about, I would agree, which goes back to, look, the Lakers' job was not really that attractive. Why? Because you were a team that had championship aspirations, demands even, and yet a roster that didn't really stack up with what you were expecting. And when you, again, look at the rankings and you look at where these teams fall in the grand scheme of the Western Conference, you have LeBron James, you have Anthony Davis. That is great. And maybe you have a coach that is going to make you take more threes. And percentage-wise, you were a very good three-point shooting team. They were seventh in three-point percentage last year. So maybe you up that and your percentage falls, but because of the volume of threes you make, you get a little bit better. But we're talking about adding small wins at the margins. We're not talking about increasing your standing from a 7th seed competing in a play-in yet again to realistically on par with Oklahoma City, Denver, Minnesota, and these other teams. So maybe you find your way inside of the top 6 because a team like LA, the Clippers, is going to fall out given that they've gotten worse. But I think at the end of the day, realistically, you are not one of the top 4 or 5 best teams in your respective conference. And I don't know why that there would be this thought that all of a sudden you can compete for a championship.
JVT, when you look at what happened between the Mavericks and the Warriors, by the way, 17-1, trading away Klay Thompson, or letting Klay Thompson go to Dallas, rather. He could have gone to the Lakers in free agency. He didn't do that. He goes down there to Big D. They are now plus 475. There's going to be open shots when you've got Luka and you've got Kyrie. What does that addition say to you, and what does the subtraction say to you in Golden State?
Yeah, for Golden State, I'm not entirely sure what we're going to expect from them, Dave, outside of what we're kind of talking about with the Lakers, right? It's weird how they kind of mirror one another. 2 really big stars, the best at their respective position, LeBron being the best of all time, but with rosters around them that aren't really great, and a co-star. I mean, LeBron's got the better co-star because Draymond Green, he's a very good defender, but he doesn't offer what Anthony Davis does offensively. But when you look at these rosters overall, I just struggle to see a team that is really going to compete. I mean, we're making a really big deal reporting-wise of the addition of Buddy Hield for the Golden State Warriors. It's like, okay, cool. Like, you get Buddy Hield, he's a good shooter, but I don't know if that's really making anything better for you. Same thing, like, I like the addition of DeAnthony Melton. As Michael knows, he wasn't healthy out there in Philadelphia, but when he played, statistically, he was a massive positive. It's a really good depth piece for you if you're Golden State. But again, you're a team that finished last season 10th in the Western Conference. All right, cool. You've increased your standing to 8th, maybe, if you're going to get that much better. So I just don't expect that to really be the case, again, outside of some of these teams falling down in the standings outside of injury. So I don't know what you're expecting for Golden State futures-wise. Maybe you're playing a win total if you think they're a little undervalued. But I think if you mark them compared to their future odds with some other teams, like, for example, with the team that I keep mentioning, Memphis, I think this team goes into a regular season somewhat overvalued because of their name and because of the name that they have on the roster.
You know, one team we don't talk at all about is the Suns. Like, where are they going? I mean, they just hired Coach Bud, right? They spent all that money. They fired Vogel. They hired Bud, you know, and where are they going, and what have they done with their team? And we know the big 3 there. Obviously, Booker's still the same player, but Beal and Durant aren't. Why are they 15-1 ahead of the Warriors? I mean, to me, the Warriors, the Lakers, all those teams that are old and don't have enough juice to get there in April are just wasting your money playing them.
Yeah, I would agree. I think for me, Michael, I think I would make the Suns in a tier above what we're talking about with the Lakers and the Warriors, only because I do think they have regular season potential, right? One of the reasons why their regular season standing wasn't as great is because we know about missed time with the injured stars, specifically with Bradley Beal. I think they have the makeup of a team that can be very good in the regular season. However, when you get to the postseason, that's where your flaws are exposed because of matchups, teams going mismatch hunting, doing all of those sort of things. And I do think Mike Budenholzer is a very good coach. What's going to be interesting is you're going to get this team to take more threes, right? You have guys in Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, who are very, very mid-range heavy in terms of their shot diet. Will you get them to step out to the three-point line? Will you be able to change the math for a team like this? You know, the depth isn't great, but you at least have some pieces on this roster with Monty Morris, Royce O'Neal. Your backup center position's a little bit better now with Mason Plumlee there. I don't think that they are better than some of these teams we're talking about competing for a championship in the West, but I do think that they have a stronger toehold to finish inside of the top 6 than the 2 previous teams you mentioned in Golden State and Los Angeles. I do think that they're going to be better than them, and I think that they should find themselves inside of the top 6. Now, more often than not, we're talking about 5, 6, right, and maybe 4. Then 1, 2, 3, but I still think this team should solidly be a playoff team. It's just your flaws, I think, get exposed once you reach these best-of-7 series against better teams.
Jonathan, we've buried the lead long enough. Let's talk about Michael's 76ers here. And it's not just the Paul George move. We talked about it last night when it broke, the Caleb Martin news, that they signed Caleb away from Miami. Those are the type of secondary moves that I would get excited about. And obviously we have to worry about Embiid's health. They're now down to the second shot in the East at 4-1. Is that number accurate? Do you think they should be the second betting choice right now in the Eastern Conference?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's right now, I think it's a very strong argument to be made that New York is a better team than Philadelphia. And so I think that maybe second is a little strong, but I don't think that the difference between New York and Philly from a power rating perspective is massive. So if you wanted to put Philly ahead of them, I can understand it. And I think part of the reason we have to remember, too, for some of these odds is they are a reflection of liability and whatnot, right? Like the 76ers getting a big name like Paul George are going to be very attractive to better. So you're going to short those numbers a little bit shorter than probably what their true odds actually are. But I do think that if you come into this, you know, if you look at this and you go, okay, this is a team that had a lot of cap space, that fancied itself a championship contender, what are we going to do for next season? They did as well as you possibly could. You could say whatever you want future-wise about Paul George and the 4 years and the max deal, but in terms of putting yourself in position next season to compete in an Eastern Conference that is very top-heavy, while a big competitor in Milwaukee didn't really get that much better, I think at the very least you've done a pretty good job of keeping your seat at the table with those top 3, we'll call them, in Boston, in New York will now include, of course, in themselves. And I think at the very least that's what you have to ask. But I can understand anybody who would have some questions injury-wise, right? Joel Embiid and both Paul George have missed quite a bit of regular season time, although George just played his most games in a Clippers jersey this last season. And I don't think it's fair, but I know that this is going to be brought up. The playoff performance of both of these guys in the grand scheme of things. Now, Paul George has been to multiple conference finals in both conferences. Joel Embiid has not. So I think if you have those questions, those are fair, but I don't think that you could have done much worse given what Philly had to work with.
Yeah, I look, Philly they had to go all in. I mean, let's face it, Embiid's not getting any younger. If they don't do it now, when are they going to do it? Time is of the essence, and they're protected at least from 1 to 4 on the Oklahoma City picks that they gave away to get rid of Al Horford. So how about, why are the Pacers, real quickly, JVT, we'll let you go. The Pacers, to me, are still a good team, but they're 25-1. No one gives them any love.
Yeah, I think it's the defense and the fact that all these teams got that much better, Michael. I think that's going to be a big problem.
Yeah, they got to hope that Halliburton comes back off that injury and gets back to his high level of play. JVT, appreciate your time as always, my friend. Thanks for hopping on the Progressive Guest Line.
Thanks, JVT.
Thanks, guys.
All right, when we come back, we're going to update that poll and look ahead to the Super Bowl and see where the money is coming in there. That's next here on the Lombardi Line.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi. Now here is your host, Femi Abebefe, on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Make this NFL season your best ever with our all-new VSiN NFL betting guide. The guide is packed with everything you need to bet the NFL smarter, which includes in-depth previews of all 32 teams with win total projections for every team. You got a new quarterback with a head coach? We'll break those down. How about Super Bowl predictions, a prop betting guide? Plus, best future bets from the VSiN experts, including MVP, the Roy, and the Coach of the Year awards. Whether you're a season bettor or just getting started, our NFL betting guide is your ticket to smarter, more informed bets. Visit VSiN.com/guide. Get your copy of our all-new NFL betting guide today. That's VSIN.com/guide. Back alongside Michael Lombardi, Dave Ross here, putting a bow on this edition of the Lombardi Line. Now, the poll is not done, Michael. Once we're done with the show, it goes on and lives on your X page, so people can vote later on past the show. But for our purposes right now, as Elliot Bowman, our esteemed producer, pointed out, the Lions are the big winners. The team, Michael, that will push the Niners the most 40.5% of the vote has come in on the Motor City Kitties. The Eagles are the second betting choice at 7-1, by the way, at 28.8% to possibly win the NFC. The Packers at 8-1 are the third choice at 26.1%. And then America's team, America, what happened? 4.7% for the Cowboys at 7-1. So way down that list. And it does kind of coincide, right? When you look at the futures market where the money's been coming in for the NFC splits here, the percentage of handle on the Lions to win the NFC is 27%. That's the Niners are down at 15%. So, Michael, people are buying in, and I think rightfully so, that Dan Campbell and the Lions are a team that we take seriously now. This doesn't surprise you, does it?
No, because I think they've proven, right? They've proven that we saw them take the 49ers, a team that went to the Super Bowl, and gave them everything that they could, right? They took that as far as they could, and they won that. And they a couple mental mistakes by Campbell, going for it on fourth down that didn't work out. But, I mean, we saw them get right there. I mean, like I said earlier in the show, they've only had two games where they had one game. Baltimore's the only team that really soundly beat them. I mean, the Bears beat them in the fourth quarter. There's no question about that. You can't take that away. So I think ultimately, I mean, the Lions are poised, and I think a lot of people have faith in Campbell to keep the momentum going, to keep his team hungry and alive and willing to kind of do the things that they have to do to get there. It's going to be a tough climb, let's face it. Anytime you become the hunted one, it's always challenging, and that's what Houston's going to face next year, is to be the team that everybody guns for.
And look, again, even though I'm a diehard, I'm not advocating anybody on the network to back the Cowboys this year and not at 7-1 to win the NFC or at plus $1.50 to win the East. But this is a bit of a whoosh. When you look up and see the Bears, they're getting a higher percentage of the handle at 7% than the Cowboys at 6%, with an equal percentage, just 5% of the bets. But Michael, Bears, I mean, really to win the NFC?
But I think this is a reflection of what happens in the offseason. We talk about this during the week of the season. Everything is predicated on what happened last week. And I think ultimately everybody believes the Cowboys offseason has been in nothing but turmoil. Jerry's illusion that we're going all in was a statement about signing his key players, not signing a bunch of other players. And that got misinterpreted. And so now that's out there, and no one's really corrected it. I've said this for many months now. I thought they overachieved last year with their inability to cover in the secondary. Dan Quinn did a good job of robbing Peter to pay Paul, moving things around to try to help his defense. He couldn't just look. The key to being really good on defense is to be able to balance your defense. And balancing your defense means that you can play, you have corners who tackle, you can cover man-to-man, and you can play zone. That balances your defense. And unfortunately, the Cowboys had to try to maneuver people around to do that. And it's a reflection of your talent. It's not a reflection of the coach. And I think that's ultimately what got caught up. And let's face it, they not that Tony Pollard was a great back last year. I think no one's going to confuse that. But I think their running game, where is it? It's more about this offensive line for me, are they going to be good enough? And when you lose 5 games on the road and you can't beat good teams, it shows up because of that.
It's fascinating in the AFC because obviously we saw Brady repeat. You know this very well, obviously, in the New England days. Now we see the Chiefs repeat. We've never had a 3-time in the Super Bowl era to win it 3 years in a row. So now you've got the Chiefs at plus $3. 41% of the handles come in on the Chiefs. 37% of the bets have come in on the Chiefs to get back to that Super Bowl, which is really hard to do. You look at the Bengals there at 7-1, you get 7% of the handle, 10% of the bets are in. You see kind of the longer shots there with the Steelers at 28-1, 5% of the handle, 3% of the bets. Is the smart money still in the Chiefs, like to have that ticket and say, look, I'm going to trust Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, even when it doesn't look good, and it didn't look good for the majority of the year last year, and they kind of figured it out in the postseason.
Yeah.
Is that the recipe for success again?
Well, no, I don't think it is, because history tells us 3-peats are really hard. And look, Mahomes is great. Nobody's going to deny that. But is the team still great? Losing Snead at corner makes them vulnerable. It makes McDuffie now have to play outside corner as opposed to being one of the best slot corners in football. Chris Jones got paid. Chris Jones is a dynamic player, but he's not in a contract year anymore. And he'll turn it off and on at times during the game. And when he's not turning it on, the Chiefs' defense is very vulnerable. So and their offensive line, which struggled a lot, like in the first game, when they have to block good fronts, the Raiders, for example, they struggled. And Mahomes turned the ball over, and they were uncharacteristically making mistakes. If they try to revert back to a team that wants to throw it all the time as opposed to have balance with Pacheco. Remember, his carries after that Christmas Day game went up from 14 to 21. Mm-hmm. They ran the ball more in the playoffs than they did throw it. Now, Mahomes, once they were tired, once the 49ers were tired, then all of a sudden they could throw the football effectively on them. But it took that to do it. So for me, I think, look, it's always easy to say the smart's money's on the Chiefs, but there's somebody else that you have to look at, and you're going to get better numbers.
Let me give you one with the exact same percentage handle and bets, one in the AFC and the NFC to win the Super Bowl at long shot numbers, and tell me which number you'd rather play. 4% of the handle and the bets coming in on both the Jets and the Packers. So we're going gangrene here in the AFC and the NFC. Would you rather play the Jets at 20-1 or the Packers at 19-1? And right now the public is completely they are symbiotic here at 4% across the board.
I would take the Packers. Younger team, have a better chance to stay healthy during the grueling season that is the NFL. That's A. B, I think Jeff Hafley is a really good coach, and I think he's going to make a difference for them. I think he can really create. They've got to improve defensively. They couldn't stop the run under Joe Barry last year, which really created a lot of problems for them. So when you look at that, if they can play better defensively, I think it's going to open up a whole new world for them in terms of what they can do offensively. Now, I'm concerned. Look, I think Aaron Jones was a key component of what they did at the end of the year last year. He was really good. And losing him, is Josh Jacobs going to be able to duplicate what Aaron did? Now, Josh numbers, when you look at it all from a scientific standpoint, burst, acceleration, all those measurables that you have, he was declining. Now, can that happen again? Is he going to get it back with an off season? But remember, he's on a 1-year contract. They gave it to him. It's really a 4 1-year contracts. It's not a true deal. So I think a little bit of this is going to come into play here, is how much can he really duplicate and play to the same level that Aaron Jones played at?
Yeah, I'm a little bit iffy on that running back situation as well there. It'll be interesting. We've got about 90 seconds. The longest shot on the board is the Steelers at 50-1, 4% of the handle, 3% of the bets. I know people like to play long shots here. Is it Russell Wilson dependent for you, or do you look at the quarterback? They completely uprooted the quarterback.
I mean, you're going to yeah, I mean, look, and you got to count. Look, here's a couple things you got to count on with Pittsburgh. And I like Pittsburgh and I love Tomlin. But you got to count on T.J. Watt staying healthy the whole year, and that's a hard thing to count on, right? Mm-hmm. T.J. Watt is a physical, dominating player, but it's hard to stay healthy the whole year. And two, they're going to have to throw the ball effectively. Now, I think Arthur Smith will do a really good job with Russell Wilson in terms of how he's going to implement him within the play-action pass game. But for me, it's too hard at that number to think that they can do this. They're just not talented enough. I think they're improved, but they're not talented enough.
Yeah, we know the stat. We talk about it all the time. Never had a losing record. Obviously, and you look at that win total, it's at 8.5 again. So if you think he can keep that streak going, you play the over. But that schedule is tough. But as you mentioned, Michael, everybody's schedule in the NFL is tough. Michael, always enjoy the conversation, my friend. So appreciate the last 2 hours.
Thank you, David. Have a great day.
There he is. Thanks
enjoy the golf, David.
I am going to enjoy that golf. You know I am. Thanks to Elliot Bowman behind the glass and everybody here. Cash some tickets. We'll see you next time here on the Lombardi Line.
Don't wait until fall to start betting the NFL. Get a jump start now with the VSiN